Hi, this is Katapult for Katapult Gaming, and in this Hypixel Skyblock episode, we're going to be doing something fun. So I have over 20 mage weapons in my inventory right now, going all the way from the Dreadlord Sword to the Hyperion. Definitely the most expensive and time-consuming video that I've done so far, prepping for all of this. And today we're going to be trying out all of these weapons, including some really odd ones that quite frankly, I hadn't really heard of before, so I had to do a lot of purchases for this video. And the goal here is to see a couple of things. One of them is, what does the damage look like for all these weapons? And also, what's the other intangibles? Like, what makes, for example, the Hyperion the best mage weapon, even though some of the other weapons actually does more damage. And likewise, between all of these, we'll see that there's some pretty funny ones in terms of what they do and how they work. So the first one, we'll start with the Dreadlord Sword. So very simply, we right click and it's going to do 16k damage, and it costs 32 mana with no special ultimate wise put into it. And the setup I have is the Necrotic Wither Goggles with a Storms set for the other 3 pieces. The pet, I'm using the standard level 100 pet sheet with the textbook. And the equipment is the just, basic fighting equipment that I typically use. So nothing too special. I do have a decent amount of magical power here. We'll see 686 coming from the accessories. Not super high, but probably near the end of mid-game is where I'd kind of put myself here. So definitely a new player, you won't be doing this same damage with these weapons, but people that have been here around would do probably a good amount more. So probably like a mid-level kind of idea there. So we'll start with the Dreadlord Sword, and we'll see that it's doing 65k damage on here, and it does a little bit of an area effect. So if you shoot generally in the area of where the enemy is, you have to get a little bit close, but you don't have to hit them perfectly correctly. And it also has a very good range. Basically, as long as you can see the enemies, you can definitely hit them with no issues. And you'll see that you can snipe enemies really far away, which is a fact for most of the mage weapons, and is a pretty cool thing in terms of shooting speed. You can shoot them pretty quickly as long as you have enough mana to be able to do that. The next one is the Bonzo Staff, and that one hits for 84k damage. It's also a bit of an area effect, I think, but really not as far, so you have to really hit, like practically hit the enemy. Like if you're like 1 square away, it's still gonna hit them, but for the most part, not really. So we can see already at this one is at 6 mil about for a basic one. Pretty good damage, and you can also use it to bounce off if that's something that you need to do. Next up is the Glacial Sight. Oh, and actually in terms of speed, this one is blazingly fast, and actually if you keep the right button clicked down, he'll be sending some of these everywhere. So really good when you're starting off in dungeons. The only annoying thing is the bounce back, so you can knock yourself out of a platform. If we go now to the Glacial Sight, this one upgraded as it is. It's quite a bit more expensive, but you can start with a much more basic version. I forget what the name of the before it becomes a Glacial Sight is called. yeah, so you start with a frozen site at about 6 million. You can upgrade it to a glacial site, and then you can frag it for even more damage and dungeonize it. And this one is starting to get very good damage. So if you're looking for something that starts to hit monsters quite a lot more, this one is good. The frozen site version, it's only gonna hit the enemies, but this version, if you hit the ground, and you'll see that you can use it a little bit as an AoE attack. So this is definitely helping with the quality of life of this weapon. And this is one I use for a very long time, and I'll show some scenarios of where I used to use it. Basically, if we go over to the end in the Dragon's Nest, let's go down here in the Zealot browser. So this is a great weapon for killing zealots. Basically, you can shoot through them, you can shoot a couple of them at the same time. It's very quick, doesn't cost a lot of mana, and just allows you to kill a lot of things very easily. Next up is going to be the Yeti sword. This was my main mage weapon for a long while. Now it does shoot in the air, and it's kind of not great at aiming stuff. There's some cases too where it might hit something, so like if you're trying to hit that one here, actually this time it's fine, but depending on the angle, sometimes you may hit like a tree branch there or something, and it's gonna stop your attack. So definitely not always something that you can use. Also, if you have enemies that are flying, this is definitely not great for those scenarios. And if you do need to use it point blank, there is a little bit of a delay, but you can definitely still use it like that. The animation on this one is really cool, where basically whatever blocks that you're standing on, those are the blocks that get sent off. So right now I'm on some stones. If I go over here on some leaves, then we're gonna see that I'm shooting some leaves and the tree branch over there too. Likewise, if I go on here, you'll see those stone bricks. So animation wise, this one is really fantastic, and you know, we can see the damage, you know, 1.9 million. This is a very strong hitter weapon. Next up is the Midas Staff. They have a new Reforged Gilded that boosts your intel quite a lot with it. And also, if the original person paid at least 100 mil, there's a base ability damage bonus. This one I didn't use for quite as long as the others, but you can see, you know, at 3 mil damage, this is definitely a very high damage weapon. Really great for the situations where you can use it. However, it doesn't necessarily take a whole lot to make this one unusable. So you can see here, like if I had an enemy past these branches there, I have absolutely no way of, well, I guess in some cases you can, but it doesn't do well when you have enemies at different heights. And, you know, I'll try to give an example here. Actually, they seem to be improving it a little bit. So I guess going up is fine. Is it going down? That's the issue. Yeah, so I guess they've improved its ability in stairs, but there's still a lot of weird scenarios where it's gonna behave kind of weirdly, and you can't always hit it. Like you see in this case here, like that villager, you know, seemed to me very clearly in the path of it, but in that case it wasn't. You know, another example here, the first hit didn't hit him, but the second one it moved in a square that was getting hit from it. So not extremely reliable or very versatile in every scenario, but if the enemies are on the floor and the floor is even enough that you can hit them, you really can't find a mage weapon that's going to hit more than this. And that brings us to the almighty Hyperion, and I have all the scrolls and everything on it and a good amount of ancients. And we're going to see that we are at 1.4 mil. So what makes this weapon so famous and popular, even though it is clearly not the best weapon out there? We've seen a couple of weapons that are hitting well above that amount. Well, the biggest thing is the other bonuses it does. So one of them is the Wither Shield, that it gives you an ability to reduce damage that you receive, and also you get an absorption shield for 5 seconds. So this is definitely a great survival tool. And basically you're going to be taking less damage. If you're killing harder, stronger monsters, this is where this thing is going to shine. And then you have also the bonus of being able to teleport with it. And so you kind of aim towards where the enemies are, and you get a short range teleport. So that's definitely good. However, it is quite a good amount of mana to do the teleport. So at 120 mana cost, even with Ultimate 5, you can use it to teleport around, but you'll see that your mana pool goes down pretty quickly compared to using the Aspect of the End, which only costs 19 mana. And with the Aspect of the End, I can't quite permanently stay up in the air, but you can see that even after clicking a long amount of time, my mana is just barely going down a little bit. So definitely the Hyperion, you can use it to teleport short distances, and it is definitely a practical weapon to have, but it is not going to be your main traveling tool to get you around the map very quickly. So I'll put these aside, and those are probably the most well-known weapons, and kind of sharing them in the order that I would normally acquire them. Actually, I just noticed I had skipped one of the fun ones here, the Spirit Scepter. That one is really cool, where you send off a bat, and when the bat hits, it explodes. But the really cool particularity of that one is, let's say I shoot the bat too high. If I drop the camera, you'll see that the bat follows the directions that you move the camera after that you move it. So if I were to go like this and bring it down, you can move it, in whatever direction you want to go. And that way you can kind of steer it in the air. And you can also sometimes if you see an enemy that's around a corner somewhere, like for example we have that one over there, I can kind of go and guide it and hit the enemies in different ways. So like if you take that one here, like I can kind of steer it that way. And anyway, with time you can kind of practice to get it more towards where you want to go. So this is a good early game weapon to start with. And the damage is very decent, at 200k damage, AoE attack. This is definitely good. And if you use this in dungeons, you're going to get even higher bonus damage with it, as you can dungeonize it. So definitely a good weapon to use in the beginning of the game, and somewhere around where you would put the frozen sight and before you get one of the higher weapons. So if you're starting to look into the Yeti sword, they start at the mid 50 mil range, so there's quite a jump between this group over here and getting to the Yeti sword. But now let's take a look at some of the you know, still fairly popular weapons, but they're definitely more niche use cases. So we'll take the Aurora Staff, and actually this one is a really good starter weapon too, that you'll see for, you know, almost 700k damage, good speed. The only thing though is you can't spam it. You have a couple of seconds in between the attacks, but this is about 1.2 million, so if you are looking for a good increase of magic damage very early in the game, this is definitely a great purchase to start with, and it's gonna let you kill a lot of monsters that normally you wouldn't necessarily be able to. The other pretty popular one here is the Ice Spray Wand that does a good amount of damage and also freezes them in place for 5 seconds, and the frozen enemies take extra damage. So this, you know, hits only for, you can only use it every 5 seconds, so you kind of have to time it well and decide when and where you're going to use it. But you can see here it does a good amount of damage, and you know, I'm trying to find some zombies that are lined up better to see if I can hit a couple of them at the same time. So you can see over here that there is a little bit of an area effect too, and the extra abilities it has are pretty cool. The Fire Veil Wand, this if I'm killing small enemies and I want to grind bestiary fast, or even when we were zealot farming, this is a pretty interesting one for sure. And basically for 5 seconds there's going to be a ring of fire around you, and when you get near the monsters they're going to take damage from you. So here we can see they're taking almost 600k damage, so this is a pretty strong damage weapon, and gives you some really good damage there. The other cool thing you can do is if you swap it out for a nether weapon to boost your int, you actually get that bonus damage increase from having higher int when you hit an enemy with it. So if you're gonna do that, it's also good, you know, if you need a boost of damage to have another weapon that you can swap to that's gonna let your fire wand do more damage. Next up is the Staff of the Volcano. This one has a cooldown of 30 seconds. So, you know, a lot of the other ones that we'll see, like, they have a lot of drawbacks that makes it so you can't use these very often. But it does a explosion with damage around you in a 4-block radius, where it does a damage over time, where it does that damage over 1 second. This is one that I find a little bit harder to use. Not only because of the 30-second ratio, but I found that very frequently when I use it, it actually does no damage. In this case here, we see we were able to hit something. Not sure if the wand's the thing that did that, but it seems like I took a good chunk of damage too. So that was interesting, but if it weren't for the 30-second delay, that one could have a more interesting or more often that you could find use cases for using it, but as it is, it's not very good. The Voodoo Doll is a very weird one, where again you have a 5-second cooldown, and then you're gonna throw a bunch of arrows that does damage over time, and you know, just by itself, you know, it does kind of the damage it needs to. In this case, like, these enemies don't have a lot of hit points, so it didn't show a whole lot of damage, weirdly enough, but you know, it's a good effective weapon early on, and for 1.6 million it gives you a burst of damage when you need it. The Ink Wand is another one of these 30-second delays, and it does a bomb in front of you that does 91k damage and gives blindness. So, you know, very interesting effect, and you know, really high damage. And actually, you know, 2.3 million. This is actually hitting more than a Hyperion for only 8 mil damage, but you know, with the delay that you have on it, it's not very good to use, and you can't really use it frequently. The Fire Fury Staff, this one costs 400 mana to do a Firestorm that does 159k damage over 10 seconds to the mobs in a 7 block radius, cooldown of 20 seconds. So this is another one of those that if it wasn't for the 20 seconds, that would be a really cool burst of damage that you could use, although the mana cost is really high. And so other than you know, kind of going with an old-fashioned weapon that it isn't really getting used, probably not one that was a good investment. The Pikmin Sword is interesting. Cooldown of 5 seconds with the mana cost of 320, and you'll see that it gives you more defense for 5 seconds, and then it does a Vortex of Flames that deals up to 74,000 damage over 5 seconds. So this one does a damage over time, and yeah, so pretty cool, but you know, you have a cooldown of 5 seconds, so you know, probably not the most versatile weapon, even though it does do a good chunk of damage, you know, 35k over here. So yeah, I guess the damage there, like, it gives it over 5 seconds, so if it didn't kill them instantly, you would probably see that damage getting hit per second for a while. So that was the second group of weapons. A couple of rarer and more unique ones there, but the next batch is really the weirder ones, and you know, the further we go, the less likely I would see them used in damage for real. But it's interesting to include them, so I bought or crafted some of these just so you don't have to waste your own time and money on it. But basically, this one here, it'll do a shower stars in a 3 block area for 5 seconds. Doesn't hit for a lot. It costs a lot of mana, and you know, sells for about $1 million, it looks like. But you'll see it does a bunch of stars that each do damage over time. So that is an interesting kind of thing. So, you know, it'll keep kind of falling over and then randomly hit the enemies with it. So it's a cute weapon, and if the damage scaled up better, I could definitely seeing some use out of this, kind of as a way to block off a part of the map, and you know, as the enemies walk through, they would get killed. Over here we have the Jerry Chain gun. The interesting part here is that makes you shoot backwards when you hit the floor, so you can in some cases, I think in floor 7, some people use this to kind of jump up when they need to, but you know, we can see every attack you do costs 30 mana more, so and if you reset after 4 seconds of not using it, then the mana cost kind of resets, but it's easy if you blast that to just blast through all your mana very quickly. The Golem Sword you can use every 3 seconds, and it'll do damage around you for a little bit of damage. So if we do that over here, The damage is not big at all, but it is a cute effect, and if this could be used more often, you know, there's probably more scenarios where you could see that being useful, but you know, as it is, probably worth skipping. The aspect of the dragons, this is often one of the swords that people upgrade to in the early days. It has a really nice AoE attack that you can pretty much spam, and you know, other than costing 88 mana and you know, being a pretty cheap weapon, I'd say this is one that especially a lot of non-mages would end up using, because it does do quite a lot of interesting things there. Next up is the Fire Free Staff. So this one does a circle around you, and 5 seconds later all mobs will be frozen for 10 seconds. So kind of weird, like you'll see that circle around me here, and after 5 seconds it supposedly freezes the monsters, but doesn't really seem to be doing anything really. Like I see that there, and like these enemies, they don't seem really frozen to me or doing anything different, so not sure what's up with this one, but it doesn't seem to be working. The Ember Rod, this one I believe doesn't drop in the game anymore, but there's still some on the Action House. And when you click, there's gonna be 3 fireballs that get sent, and then you have a 30-second wait time. So it's kind of cute in the sense that for 1 click you get 3 fireballs, and they seem to be small area effects. Damage is pretty low, but the 30-second cooldown means it's not really usable. And the last one is kind of weird. So it's a leaping sword. It's quite a large amount more expensive than the aspect of the end, but it kind of does a little bit the same. So you can definitely use it to teleport around. It's definitely not as smooth, and when you land with it, you'll see that you do an AoE attack around you. So that one is kind of cute, where also it kind of forces you to jump a distance. You can't control it as well as you would within Aspect of the End, but if you kind of time or place your jumps correctly, you can use this as an area of attack, and it does do a little bit of damage, but yeah, most likely not something that most people would actually find a use for. So what is the conclusion in all that? I mean, a lot of the standard weapons that people use, the Dreadlord sword, this one I would probably skip unless you really want to do magic damage for some reason. But starting with the Bonzo Staff, Glacial Sight, and Spirit Scepter, all 3 of those are really good and kind of situational which one is best. But you can't really go badly with any of those 3. If you upgrade to a Yeti Sword or Midas Staff, that's going to let you do a lot more content. Same thing with the Aurora Staff, that one is really good. And I'll go show you all 3 of those in the Crimson Isle, which frequently is where a lot of people start looking into the mage weapons. So I'll bring kind of the main ones over there to give an example of what it looks like in the Crimson Isle and why mage weapons are so popular at some point. Also, they can be really good in some stages of the dungeons. Probably not all the time, but there are definitely a lot of levels So when you get to the Crimson Isle the first time, you'll see, even out of the gate, the enemies have quite a lot of mana, or hit points, sorry, and it can be quite hard to kill them if you came here with just a traditional weapon. But you can see that the Aurora Staff, even if you don't have the Aurora Armor to give it its bonuses, definitely a good starting weapon when you're reaching this point. The Yeti Sword is what I use to kill a lot of the monsters over here. Because it does more damage, it allowed me to go kill even some of the more mid-range weapons enemies over here. So we can see those spiders there, they have 1,000,000 hit point, so you can start killing those with the Yeti Sword. You know, you have to wait for it to attack, and you know, sometimes it can be a matter of you climb somewhere safe, and you know, if you have an enemy that has more hit points, trying to see if I can find a corrupted enemy somewhere with the purple name. Anyway, if there were any, basically they have quite a lot more hit points than regular enemies do. And instead of 1 mil, they might have like 3, 4, 5 mil hit points for this area. So you just kind of go on top somewhere safe like this, and with your Yeti Sword you just kind of spam them, and you know, over time you'll kind of kill the enemies that you need to. So definitely a good starter weapon there. The Midas Sword, this one is definitely good in a lot of cases, and you can see an example here though where the enemy is too high for you to hit him with it. That is definitely the disadvantage of the Midas Staff. So this is one that for some enemies it's really good. These ones here, no issues at all, and even sometimes you can line up a couple to attack like that. I used it a bit too when I started fishing here, but yeah, you can see at 4.3 mil damage a shot. As long as there are enemies that you can actually reach and they're not flying, you're going to be doing really great with these ones. And finally, you have the Hyperion, which is even better. So in this one here, I just kind of aim. Normally, I try to aim not quite at the enemy, but next to the enemies, so that way my AoE kills them, but I don't get within range of getting hit by them. And if you do spawn a Vanquisher, like we just did over here, then this is where having a Hyperion definitely pays off, because you just spam that and the hype is going to help you stay alive. So if we go over here to the Mage Outlaw, we'll see, you know, we just use our attacks here to do a bit of damage to him. When he turns green, you kind of move out of the way, either for this attack or the other attack. But this is an example where the Hyperion's defensive abilities are absolutely going to help you stay alive. You are most likely going to run out of mana unless you are very endgame. But you are definitely able to kill it off without too much issue. And a lot of the mini bosses here, as long as you learn their patterns, the Hyperion will make very short work out of them. When you get over here to Blade Soul, there's a couple of ways that you can do him. You can either kind of go there and you watch out for the circle of skulls, and you know, you kind of just teleport around and he'll be you know, you'll be mostly fine in surviving for most of it. And then when you see that thing kind of spiral around him, that's where you take a little break and you get ready to dodge the skulls. So that would be kind of a regular way of killing him more straight on. Once in a while you can get a little bad lucky in your attacks, but you know, for the most part he's definitely killable that way. The other way is you can climb on top of a pillar like here and just kind of cheese it off like that. So yeah, a lot of these mini bosses, you know, this is really the strength of the Hyperion and why that becomes a major weapon. It's that defensive ability makes it really much easier to kill the mini bosses. And let's take the Midas staff out and go pay a visit to the Barbarian Duke to kind of give an example. So here, if you attack him with this, you can kind of, you know, turn around like that and you just run away from him. And you know, definitely a very viable option. And you know, sometimes when he gets into a jumping mode, you kind of let your mana regen at that time. But chances are you will eventually run out of mana before it dies, but you just kind of keep running around until your mana comes back, and over time you'll be able to finish it off. So this is you know, the one case where actually I find the Midas staff probably a little bit better than the Hyperion, because this one hurts like a truck. And you know, if you're going with the hype approach, you're gonna have to have a lot of very defensive stuff on to be able to survive this one hitting you even with a hype. And the only exception would be if you want to cheese him with the hype, and basically you can go in the bottom here and just kind of kill him that way. Not something that I like to do too much. I don't like cheesing fights if there's a legitimate way of killing it. So most of the time I'll just kind of use my Midas staff over here and just kill him off that way. And you can notice too, like if you cheese him and then you go back up, you know, it looks like at some point he kind of heals himself when you go up to the top floor. So if you are gonna cheese him, I'd say cheese him until he's dead, because if not, you kind of have to start some of the fight over. But definitely, if you do have a Midas staff available, this is a great weapon for this particular monster, and probably one of the places where the Midas staff really shines the most, and more than all of the other weapons, I find. But overall, you know, the mage weapons are really great for this place over here. You know, all of them can be really good, at least this series over here. If you go with the lower level ones, you can still, with patience, kill the enemies. So if we bring the glacial site as an example, you can, you know, come here and it'll take you a couple of attacks to kill them off. And you know, overall, that's weird. Why is that one invisible? But yeah, so you know, the site, as you get stronger, it can be used, especially on the lower enemies. And you know, what I really love with this one is you can just spam it like crazy. You know, for 10 mana per attack, you can just go nuts and you can just like right click it and you can basically use it like a machine gun, and it is going to do quite a lot of attacks, and you can kill the enemies still pretty decently with it. But if you can invest in some of the better weapons here, it's going to make your life in the Crimson Isles a lot more simpler. So I hope you liked that demonstration. How cute, I got a pet drop here. But yeah, I hope you liked the demonstration of the different weapons, and this gives you a better idea not only of the damage, but kind of the use cases of each one of those and different ways that you can use them. So you can kind of see here with that. The bat, it's really slow, but you know, eventually it does get there, and you know, this kind of gives you a good idea of the range of mage weapons, even if we see that one far away over there. Yeah, see, it took a while, but the bat finally hit it. So yeah, the mage weapons, they have a lot of great use cases, and I hope you have a better idea of which ones you want to upgrade to next, and which ones that you may want to skip. So definitely all the ones that I had in the first lineup over there, and also the Aurora staff, all of these are good ones to get started with, and the other ones are very situational, and they're more like for fun than actually really useful in your Skyblock experiences. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, please leave them in the comment box. Please remember to like, subscribe, share with a friend. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.